Sheikha's Determined Police Officer, the Botros Brothers series, Book 4, written by Leslie North, narrated by Tanya Stevens. Chapter 1. Sarah tapped her foot impatiently as they waited at yet another red light. Leaning her head back against the headrest, she grumbled at the traffic. "Relax," Aaliyah told her. "We have plenty of time. We'll be out of the city soon enough." "You do not understand how much I have been looking forward to this," Sarah replied as she grumbled at the cars in front of them. As one of the vice presidents for Botros Oil, she rarely had the opportunity to travel, as her work and family kept her busy at home. But when this project came up, she decided to combine this work trip with a much-needed girls-only outing. She'd invited her sister-in-law, Soraya, her cousin, Aaliyah, as well as her best friends and twins, Kira and Kalina, to come with her. This way, work would not seem like work. That was the plan anyway. Since giving birth to Layla more than 4 years ago, quickly followed by the twins, Nabil and Nassim, she had not had much of a break. When Sarah had first moved to Saudi Arabia to work for Botros Oil, she never anticipated that she would marry the oldest Botros brother, Tariq. And while their relationship was off to a rocky start, they both grew to love each other deeply. Sarah thanked her lucky stars every day that Tariq was in her life, and she adored their beautiful but lively children. Sarah pulled out her phone to call Tariq and check on the children. "We are fine," Tariq said to Sarah as soon as he picked up. He knew exactly why she was calling him. Sarah laughed. "I was not calling to ask if you were fine." She lied, but no one was convinced. "Yeah, right," Aaliyah said from the driver's seat. She knew how much Sarah loved her family, and she had spent very little time apart from them. It was natural for her to be worried. "If you say so," Tariq replied. Sarah could hear Layla singing in the background. "Hey, baby," Sarah shouted. "She just ate, so she is happy." "I bet she is." "She is her mother's daughter," Tariq joked. Sarah had not even been away from Tariq for more than an hour, and she was already missing him. "Thankfully, she also looks like me." "Woman, what do you mean, thankfully? You melt at the very sight of me." Sarah laughed, even though it was very true. "Don't flatter yourself, baby," she said to him. "It's the heat that makes me melt." "How are the boys?" "They're sleeping." "That's good." Sarah worried about Tariq being alone with the children for the first time. When the boys started crying, it was hard to calm them both down at the same time. Sarah was good at it, but Tariq had not mastered the trick yet. Luckily, Fida had offered to visit and promised not to make it look like she was checking up on her grandson. "Hurry back," Tariq said to her after a few seconds. He couldn't bear being away from his wife. "I will. Love you." "I love you, Habibti." Sarah put her phone away as Aaliyah rubbed her arm. "The two of you make such a lovely couple," she told her. "Thank you," she replied. "I am the only single one here. It's not fair." "You will find someone soon. Don't rush it, Habibti," Sarah said and rubbed Aaliyah's shoulder. Soraya giggled. Sarah turned to look at her. "Why is she giggling?" she asked. "She has been messaging her husband nonstop since we got in the car," Kalina said. "You see, everyone is happy," Aaliyah said with a little sadness in her voice. "You're a beautiful girl. You won't be single for long," Kira said. "If I can find someone, trust me, you can and you will. There's no need to rush," Sarah said as she sipped her drink. Suddenly, they heard a siren. Aaliyah looked in the rearview mirror and saw a police car behind them with its lights flashing. "Is that siren for us?" Soraya asked. "She finally lifts her head up from her phone," Kalina joked. Soraya laughed and put the phone in her purse. She had been married to Amir for less than a year, and they were still in their newlywed phase. "I think he wants us to pull over," Aaliyah said as she slowed down and pulled off onto the side of the road. The police car stopped behind them. "We were probably going too fast," Kiera said. "Really?" Aaliyah had not even realized. She suddenly remembered how her cousins, Tariq and Amir, always told her that she drove too fast. "Check him out," Sarah said and nodded in the direction of the police officer as he approached the driver's side. Aaliyah opened the window and looked at the police officer. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out, as she simply stared at him. "Good afternoon, sir. Is there a problem?" Sarah asked. The officer, too, was staring at Aaliyah. "Ladies, you were going faster than the speed limit," he finally said. "License and registration, please," he added. The three women in the back seat leaned forward to look at the police officer. "Were we?" Aaliyah cleared her throat. "I didn't even realize," she added as she turned to the console to search for her license and registration. The police officer didn't take his eyes off Aaliyah. "Is it hard being a police officer?" Kiera asked cheekily. "No, ma'am, it is not," he replied. "It looks like you can handle it," Kalina said. "He looks built for the part," Sarah said in reference to his muscular physique. Aaliyah looked at her wide-eyed and tried not to laugh. "You ladies sound like trouble," he said. Aaliyah handed him her license and registration. She felt a tugging feeling in her chest as their eyes met. What the hell? "Oh, we are not," Sarah said with a mischievous smile on her face. He smiled as he inspected the documents, which gave Aaliyah a chance to run her eyes over him. He was tall, and his muscles filled out the uniform well. He had thick, dark hair that curled slightly at his nape. His skin was a nice caramel color, and when he took his sunglasses off, his eyes were the color of chocolate. He handed the documents back to Aaliyah. "I will let you off this once," he said as he stared at her. "A beautiful lady like you should be more careful on these roads," he finally added. He smiled as he walked away. "Bye!" The other four chimed out at once as Aaliyah buried her head in her hands and started laughing. "That is one handsome officer," Sarah said. Aaliyah shook her head as she started the engine. "I think he knows that you think so," Aaliyah said. "Me? You were so taken by him you could not even speak." The other girls laughed and agreed. "It was not that. There was something familiar about him. I think that I have seen him before." Aaliyah could not put her finger on it. She knew she had seen him before, but where exactly? "Well, he was staring at you too," Soraya said. "So much so that he did not even care about us teasing him," Sarah added. "He was, wasn't he?" Aaliyah agreed. She had noticed him staring at her too. She had felt some kind of connection, but she couldn't quite remember why. It made no sense to her at all. Starting the engine again, she shook it off and decided not to dwell on it any longer. Chapter 2. The girls finally arrived at the resort. Relatively new, the builders had incorporated aspects of the countryside as they worked to blend the buildings in with the surrounding landscape. Two porters immediately greeted them as they loaded their luggage onto a bellman's cart. As they walked toward check-in, the receptionist recognized Sarah from her photos in the newspaper. "Mrs. Botros, welcome," she told her. "Thank you," Sarah replied with a smile. "Look after them. They are important guests," the receptionist instructed the porters as they headed toward their rooms. "Oh, that isn't necessary," Sarah said. She still was not used to her notoriety simply because she was married to Tariq Botros. However, people always treated her differently. "Enjoy your stay," the receptionist said with a smile. "And if there's anything you need, please call the front desk." After Sarah unpacked, she opened the connecting door to Soraya's room. Her sister-in-law was lying on the bed messaging Amir. Sarah smiled and approached her quietly before pouncing on the bed. "Are you that into your messages that you cannot even hear me walking in?" Sarah asked her. Soraya jumped out of her thoughts and looked up. "You gave me a fright," she said as she sat up. "I won't ask you how it feels to be married, because I can see you enjoy it," Sarah said as she sat on the bed next to her. "I hope we stay this happy." "Me too." Soraya stared blissfully into the distance. If someone had told her 4 years ago that she would be this happy married to Amir Botros, she would have laughed. It had taken him years of asking her out, and she had refused him several times until she finally gave in. They had dated for more than a year before he proposed to her, but they waited until she had finished with her studies before marrying. There were times where she felt as though she needed to pinch herself. He was not the billionaire playboy the gossip sites depicted him as. Instead, he was a loving, thoughtful, romantic man who knew exactly how to make her laugh. He never ceased to amaze her. "What was it like for you when you first got married?" Soraya asked Sarah. Sarah laughed before she answered. "It was interesting," she said. "Why?" "We started off as two people that hated each other, but accidentally slept together at the office." Sarah still felt shy talking about it. "And then you got pregnant?" "Yes. Then he moved me into his house. Did I not tell you how it happened?" Everyone knew about their story. She assumed that Soraya did as well. "I only know a tiny bit. I've yet to hear the full story." Soraya propped herself up on her elbows, eager to hear. Sarah sighed as she relayed the story to Soraya, who sat there staring at her. "You mean he actually threw you over his shoulder and carried you out?" she asked in disbelief. At Sarah's nod, Soraya burst out laughing. Oh my, I mean, I know that Tariq can be domineering, but that is utterly caveman." "Tell me about it," Sarah said dryly as she stood up to stretch. "We need to go out." Soraya raised her eyebrows. "Where?" she asked. "Anywhere. Let's go have some fun. I'll go tell the others while you finish unpacking." She left the room to tell the others, who were all eager to explore the area. Later on, after dinner, they left the hotel together in search of a suitable destination. Since they were in a small town in the country, there were not many options. They followed the sounds of loud music and came upon a bar at the end of the street and decided to go inside. "I have never been in a bar," Sarah said. Aaliyah whipped her head in her direction. "That is hard to believe," Aaliyah said as Sarah raised an eyebrow. "How come?" Kalina gave Sarah a puzzled look. "Yeah, you are so spontaneous and adventurous." "That is true, but bars and clubs were never for me." "We used to go all the time when we were in school," Kira said as Kalina nodded. Sarah shrugged. "I've been to clubs, but I do not enjoy it." "You are strange," Kalina joked. "Come on, let's go in," Soraya said. This would be her first time in a bar, and she was curious. As they walked in, they immediately felt out of place. Dressed up for a night on the town, the girls looked around the crowded bar, which was mostly men. As they looked for a place to sit, one man whistled at them. "Ignore him," Kalina said as they found a pub table near the bar. As they sat down, the bartender arrived with a bottle of wine. "A gentleman wishes to buy you all a drink," he said. They exchanged puzzled glances. I do not feel comfortable accepting a drink from a stranger, Soraya said. I agree. Besides, I do not even drink wine, Sarah said. Please return the wine and thank him for us, Aaliyah said to the bartender. He did as she asked. They watched him return the wine to an older-looking man who did not look pleased. I hope he is not too offended, Kira said. He looks it, Soraya replied. Well, never mind, Kalina said and ordered herself a drink. Sarah was not sure what to get, since she did not like alcoholic drinks. She opted for something non-alcoholic as she munched on a bowl of nuts the server left on the table. Moments later, a man walked up to Aaliyah. Fancy a night with me, sweetness? He asked her. He seemed to be in his early 30s and was dressed casually. No, thank you, she replied. I'm here with friends. Stupid bitch, he said to her. Excuse me? There is no need to speak that way, Sarah said. No one was speaking to you, he said to Sarah with a frown. Walk away, buddy, Sarah said through clenched teeth. He is probably drunk, Soraya said. Good night, Aaliyah said to him. She thought being polite to him would ease his irritation, but she was wrong. He grabbed her arm. Come with me, he said to Aaliyah as he pulled her from her seat. Sarah immediately jumped to her feet. Take your hands off my friend, she shouted. Another man came towards them. Sarah thought he was coming to help, but he seemed to be friends with the man that was harassing Aaliyah. In a gruff, slurred tone, he asked him what was the problem. She's a stubborn one, he said. Aaliyah shook her arm free from him and pushed him away. He pushed her back. Back off, the bartender said to him. Sarah was furious. They were only trying to have a drink. How dare he push her friend? Making a fist, she swung, punching him in the jaw. But he was either too drunk or she didn't hit him hard enough, because he merely grunted and rubbed at his chin before slapping her. Just as Aaliyah was about to hit him, his friend grabbed her by the hair and pulled her away. Soraya smashed a bottle against his head, which caused him to release Aaliyah as he dropped to his knees in pain. Kira hopped up and down, hoping for an intervention. When the fight got too close to her, she grabbed her glass to throw, but missed and hit the wrong person. She gasped and covered her mouth with her hand. The music was so loud, it took the others a while to notice what was going on. The man Kira hit turned to see where it had come from, and she quickly looked away. As the second drunk stumbled to his feet, the man went to confront him, thinking that he had thrown the glass. Kalina had jumped off the back of the first drunk and kept smacking him on the head as he attempted to throw her off. The bartender finally stopped the music and called the police. All eyes turned to watch the fight. A few jumped in to break up the fight as they pulled the girls away from the two drunks. Sarah was still so furious that she took her shoe off and whacked the harasser on the head as someone grabbed her around the waist and lifted her away from him. Chapter 3. Whilst the other patrons were trying to defuse the situation, the police walked into the bar. There was a call reporting a disturbance? One of the police officers asked the bartender. The bartender told him about the fight. He was furious, especially because there was so much damage done. The other police officers quickly spread out and were taking statements about what happened. Sarah was rubbing her neck when she noticed a familiar-looking police officer walking in their direction. Look, she said to Aaliyah. Aaliyah looked up and saw the police officer who had stopped them earlier. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Sarah awkwardly. Well, this is interesting, she said to her. So, we meet again, he said to them as he approached. Kira and Kalina turned towards the voice and raised their eyebrows when they saw who it was. It's Officer Handsome, Kalina joked. I knew you ladies were trouble. He flipped open his notepad and clicked his pen. What exactly happened here? He asked. Sarah cleared her throat and looked away. She had been the first one to throw a punch. They started it, Soraya said to the police officer and pointed at the harasser and his friend, who were being questioned by a different police officer. They were harassing her, Kira said. Officer Handsome looked at them as they explained what happened. It became clear to him that they were at the center of the chaos. These ladies have been identified as the instigators by several witnesses, another police officer said as he approached Officer Handsome. What? Sarah shouted. So they witnessed everything and did not think to help? She growled. Sorry, ladies, but I have to arrest you, said Officer Handsome as he motioned to other officers for assistance. What? They all said at the same time. None of them had ever been arrested before. The police officers handcuffed them as the girls continued to complain. Please remain silent, one of the officers said to them. It was all in self-defense, Kira shouted. You can make your case at the station. All 7 of them, including the 2 drunks, were escorted to police cars and taken to the police station, where they were put into holding cells. Sarah planted herself on a bench next to 2 other women, one with bright red hair and the other with huge hoop earrings, who were there when they arrived. Despite what you may think, this is not my first time getting arrested, Sarah said to Aaliyah. Aaliyah dropped her jaw. I never thought you had been, she said as Sarah laughed. I am teasing. How can you laugh at a time like this? When my husband finds out, he is going to be furious, Kira said to Sarah with her eyes narrowed. You have to admit the situation is a little bit funny, she said. They all whipped their heads in her direction and looked as if she were crazy. Kira was so frightened that she sat there throwing glasses at the wrong people, Sarah added and started laughing. It's not funny, Kira shot back. It is a little bit, Kalina said with a smile. Well, given how poorly we did, I'm thinking this was everyone's first bar fight, Soraya said as Kira nodded her head. I hate fighting, she said. Aaliyah stood up. We need to be bailed out of here, she said. Are we getting charged? Sarah asked. I hope not. Who should we call? Kalina asked. Can't we bail ourselves out and keep this quiet? Sarah asked hopefully. We left our credit cards at the hotel, remember? Kiera pointed out. We should call Amir, Sarah said. He would be less strict in such a situation and would see the humor in it, whereas Tariq would be furious, especially since she threw the first punch. I agree, Aaliyah said. When she was younger, she always called Amir when she got into trouble. Tariq would help her but scold her afterwards. He was much stricter and scarier than Amir was. Oh, great. So we're calling my husband, Soraya said as she sighed. She did not want her arrest to be one of the earliest memories in their marriage. Hugging her sister-in-law, Don't worry, you can blame me, Sarah said. Good idea, Aaliyah agreed, and she stood up and looked around. So this is what jail is like, she said. The other 2 women in the same cell looked at each other and laughed. Sarah looked at them and raised her eyebrows. What is she looking at? One of them asked. Is there a need to be so rude? Sarah asked. Aaliyah turned to face her. Just ignore them, Aaliyah said and started calling for an officer. Can I have my one call? She shouted. Malik is out of town, so we can't call him, Soraya said and sighed. Moments later, Officer Handsome showed up. He raised his eyebrows when he saw that it was Aaliyah that was calling. He masked his amusement as he approached the cell to stand in front of her. It's Officer Handsome again, Kalina joked. Aaliyah leaned her forehead against the cell bars. Can I make a call? She hated that it was he that had arrested her, and he who came when she called. For some reason she wanted to impress him. She did not want him to see her in such a state, as she did not want him thinking that she made a habit out of breaking the law. Sure, he said as he unlocked the cell. This is not typical behavior for me, she said as they were walking. He smiled over his shoulder. I never said anything. His smile was so familiar. Where had she seen him before? But you think that we are trouble. We're not that bad, I swear. I believe you. You may make your call. You have 3 minutes, he said and walked off. Aaliyah sighed and picked up the phone to call Amir. On the 3rd ring, he picked up. Hello? He said. Aaliyah was suddenly nervous, as she wondered how to tell him. Hello? He said again. She took a deep breath and told him what happened, where they were, and asked him to come bail them out. He was confused as to what happened, but they did not have time to talk, so he agreed to come as soon as possible. Thank you, Aaliyah said to Officer Handsome when she was done on the phone. He nodded. What is your name, anyway? She asked him. She really wanted to know if it was the same person she was thinking of. Was it really him? Joseph, he replied. Usually it was Officer Samara, but he told her his first name instead. Aaliyah's eyes flew open. It was him. It really was the Joseph she was thinking of. When he opened the cell, she walked in and sat down on the bench as if in a trance. Is he coming? Soraya asked Aaliyah. What did he say? She asked. Aaliyah did not reply. She just sat there quietly, still thinking about Joseph. Aaliyah, Kiera called out. Huh? Aaliyah jumped out of her thoughts and looked at Kiera. Is Amir coming? Yes, he is. He'll be here soon, Aaliyah said. You do not sound happy, Sarah said. Oh, I am, she said as she stared at the wall in shock that it really was Joseph. How long had it been since she had seen him? 6 years? But Officer Handsome. Sarah laughed. That nickname kills me every time, she said. What about him? She asked. His name is Joseph. What? Habibti, you are not making sense, Soraya said. Chapter 4. Aaliyah sighed deeply. Now it made sense why she had such a strange feeling in her chest when she first saw him. The girls, even the 2 women they didn't know, were looking at her wondering what was going on. She had only said his name and then remained silent after that. He's so handsome that she cannot even speak, the woman with bright red hair said and laughed. Sarah shot her a stern look. Relax, I'm joking, the woman said, holding up her hands. What were you even arrested for? Sarah asked the other women. Indecent exposure. Sarah raised her eyebrows and started laughing. What were you exposing? She asked. She ignored the question. Why were you arrested? This place does not suit any of you. The woman with giant earrings said. Bar fight. The woman raised an eyebrow. A bar does not suit you either, she said. Sarah shrugged her shoulders. I'm Sarah, she said and gave her a nod. Kiera and Kalina looked at her. Was she really making friends in jail? Stella, the woman with bright red hair replied. Sarah nodded and returned her attention to Aaliyah. Don't leave us hanging. What is it about Joseph that's got you like this? I knew him, Aaliyah said. Did you? The twins said at the same time. Aaliyah nodded. In high school. High school sweethearts? Sarah joked. Yes. What? Everyone asked at the same time. You and Officer Handsome were together? Soraya asked. Sarah started laughing. It's much funnier when Soraya says it, she said. Soraya leaned against her and smiled. They all regarded her as the quiet and decent one. How is it that you didn't recognize him? Kalina asked. He's changed so much since I last saw him, but I'd recognize that smile anywhere, Aaliyah replied. This is all so weird. Fate, Kira said. She is not over him, Stella said. Her friend nudged her to stay out of a conversation that had nothing to do with her. It doesn't seem like she is, Sarah agreed. Did he recognize you? She asked Aaliyah. I don't think so. If he did not say anything to me, she replied. But even if he did not, he's seen my identification, so he knows my name. He could not have forgotten about me so soon, could he? Well, you did not say anything to him. Maybe he was being polite, Sarah pointed out. Aaliyah nodded her head as she lay back on the bench and started telling them how she had met Joseph. It was during gym class. Of course, she used to see him around school. He was 2 years older than she was, and all the girls in her year had a crush on him. They were playing volleyball when she and his friends came to watch. Aaliyah was terrible when it came to sports. She tried to serve, and instead of the ball going over the net, the ball somehow hit Joseph instead. What did he do? Kira asked on the edge of her seat. I was just about to apologize, but he was furious. He started arguing with me. Everyone was laughing, Aaliyah said. So how did you end up together? Soraya asked. We were always arguing when we ran into each other. We both had so much energy and passion. Then one day we were in the middle of an argument and he just kissed me. Aaliyah was smiling as she was talking about it. She could still remember how she felt about him. We dated for 2 years. Everything was so perfect. But eventually we broke up when I went away to university and his family moved away. We couldn't stand to be apart from each other, so we knew a long-distance relationship would never work. Her voice trailed off. That's beautiful. Star-crossed lovers, Stella said, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. That's what she told people. But really she was afraid that her family would never approve of their relationship because Joseph was not from the same social background. She had not thought of him in years, until now. Will you speak to him now? Sarah asked. I don't know. Aaliyah wanted to, but she knew it was not going to be easy. She did not know where to start. Why not? Soraya asked. I don't know what I would say. Aaliyah, second chances do not come easily. There's a reason why we met him twice. It can't be a coincidence. Don't lose this opportunity, Sarah said. You clearly have feelings for him, Stella added. Stop butting in, her friend said to her as she elbowed her side. She has a point, Kalina pointed out. You clearly still have feelings for him. Don't ignore your heart, she added. The ladies sat in the cell talking about Joseph. It took a lot of convincing before Aaliyah finally said that she would talk to him. She wasn't too pleased about their reunion being in jail. He must think she was crazy. About an hour and a half later, Amir appeared with Joseph. He had requested to see the women for himself before they were released. He stood outside the cell looking at them. Their shoes were off, their hair was messy, and their makeup was smudged. "Amir," Aaliyah called out in relief as she got to her feet. He took his phone out of his pocket and snapped a quick picture. "This will make a great memory," he said in amusement. "Oh, thank heavens you're here," Sarah said as she got up, her shoes dangling in her hands. Soraya smiled awkwardly as Amir looked at her and smirked. "I never thought I would see my wife in jail," he said, purposely taunting her. She narrowed her gaze at him as Joseph unlocked the cell. "You have a handsome husband," Stella pointed out. "Thank you," Amir replied with a smirk on his face. It did not surprise him that she thought he was handsome. He was so full of himself. Soraya rolled her eyes as she stood up. "Can we bail those two out, too?" Sarah asked Joseph, referring to Stella and her friend. "That's random," Amir pointed out. "Not really. Sarah makes friends wherever she goes," Aaliyah said. Joseph agreed to allow Stella and her friend to be bailed out. Sarah and the others were fortunate not to be charged, but they had to pay fines and compensate the bar for the broken glassware and furniture. They sighed with relief as they walked out of the police station. No one wanted to have a criminal record. "So, what happened?" Amir asked. He was curious as to why they had been arrested. "Never mind," Soraya said. "That makes me even more curious," he said and looked at Sarah. "What happened?" he asked her. Sarah never really could keep a secret from him. She sighed before she answered. "Bar fight," she replied. Amir raised his eyebrows. "Did you start it?" he asked her. "Amir, what?" She wanted to deny it, but he was looking at her with a smirk. He knew that she was always the instigator. It was self-defense, she added as she grumbled. "This guy was harassing Aaliyah," Kiera said. "I'd have done worse," Amir said. "Never mind. It's over and done with now," Soraya said, wanting all this to be over. "The first time all of you are out of town alone, there is trouble." Amir tutted and shook his head. "You're enjoying this way too much," Soraya said to him as she headed to the car. Amir laughed. He was enjoying this and planned to tease his wife about it later. Stella and her friend came to thank Sarah for bailing them out. "What is your name?" Sarah asked the friend. She had been quiet most of the time. "Miriam," she said. Sarah nodded. "Well, you two stay out of trouble now," Sarah said. Earlier, Stella had mentioned that it was not the first time they had been arrested. Sarah gave them her number and told them to contact her if they needed help with anything. "Rich folks aren't always this nice," Stella said. "I was not always rich," Sarah said with a smile and walked off. She wanted to help them do better. When she reached the car, everyone else was already inside, waiting for her. Chapter 5. It was very late when they arrived back at the hotel, and they were all eager to retire to their rooms. Aaliyah had so many unanswered questions in her mind about Joseph. She knew she had to talk to him soon, but she wanted to wait until she had cleaned up her appearance a bit before she did. Amir returned with Soraya back to her room. He threw himself on the bed. "Come here, my little convict," he said to her with a grin. She looked at him with a narrowed gaze. "Amir, it's not funny, and I wasn't even charged," she protested. "I wish I had seen you in action. I bet you can throw a mean right hook." Soraya shook her head. Amir grabbed her hand and pulled her towards him. She landed on top of him as she squeaked in surprise. He tucked a lock of her hair behind her ear and searched her eyes. "You will always be beautiful to me. "Inside and out," he said to her. He could tell that she was worried about how he would see her after being arrested, but he found the whole thing hilarious. "Really?" she asked. He smiled and pulled her even closer to his face. "Such a small matter would not make my feelings waver," he said and kissed her. Wrapping her arms around him, she kissed him back. "Although I am glad to know that should I ever need backup, I know that I can call on you and Sarah," he teased as she punched him on the chest. "Ow," he exclaimed as he rubbed the spot where she hit him. "That hurt." "Keep in mind the next time you decide to tease me. I have experience now," she replied mockingly. "I would rather you did other things with your hands, wife." Raising one eyebrow, she trailed her hand down his body to cup his erection. "Something like this?" she asked him, groaning. "That's a very good start." Soraya laughed as she reached for his waistband. The next morning, Sarah left after breakfast and headed out to the oil site. Meanwhile, Aaliyah took her time getting dressed. Today, she was going to confront Joseph. She chose a white pencil calf-length dress and high heels. She combed her hair out in long waves and added a little makeup to cover the dark circles under her eyes from their long night. She got into a taxi and headed to the police station. On the way there, she wondered what she would say to him. How was he going to react? What if he knew it was her and did not care? Unfortunately, the ride was not long enough for her to figure out her thoughts. She arrived before she had determined what she would say. Aaliyah got out of the taxi and sat on a bench outside the station, trying to muster up enough courage to walk inside. Did he even remember her? About an hour later, Joseph walked out of the station. He stopped abruptly when he saw Aaliyah sitting on a bench. He had been thinking about her all night and was happy that she had come back to the police station. He strode towards her, not sure exactly what he was going to say. "Miss Botros," he said. At first, Aaliyah did not respond. He called her again before she turned to face him. She gasped and rose to her feet as she straightened out her skirt. "Joseph," she said, "what brings you by?" Aaliyah cleared her throat. "I came to see you," she said, feeling awkward. Now that the words were out, she could not take them back. "Did you?" He raised his eyebrows. She looked at him and nodded. He has changed. He was taller than she remembered, more muscles. Definitely more muscles, she thought, and so much more attractive. "I see you haven't stopped causing trouble," he said as Aaliyah frowned. "I wasn't the one who started the bar fight," she protested. She stopped when she realized what he had said. "What?" she asked. He smiled at her and touched her face. "You remember me?" she asked. "How could I ever forget you?" he replied. He caressed her face and searched her eyes. He remembered how much he loved her. He regretted ever letting her go. He tried to move on, but it never worked. No matter who he was with, it was never the same. There was no one like Aaliyah. "Your finger's empty," he pointed out. "What? You are not married?" "Oh, no." She glanced down at his hand. "Neither are you." How could he ever marry when there was only one woman in his heart? His heart ached just looking at her. So much time had passed, time that they could have spent together. However, he was no fool. He was from a different background. It would have been hard for them, which was why he tried to give her up. What was the point if it hurt so much? He pulled Aaliyah into an embrace and held her tightly. He never thought that he would be able to hold her again. It was unreal. She felt so fragile and delicate in his arms. He inhaled her scent. It was still the same. She wore the same perfume that he bought for her for their first Valentine's Day together. He was surprised that after all these years, she still wore the same scent. "You still wear that perfume?" he asked her. Aaliyah smiled. "Of course. It reminds me of you. I couldn't wear other perfumes." His chest was as warm as she remembered, but it was harder and bigger. She wrapped her arms around him and rested her head on his chest. Even with her high heels on, he was still so much taller than she was. Joseph finally let her go as they stepped back. She felt so emotional. It was like a tidal wave of feelings hitting her all at once. She hadn't known that she was going to feel this way. This was not the reunion she was expecting. He offered to take her for coffee as he was on a break, and she nodded in agreement. Walking her to his car, he opened the door and waited for her to get in. "I see that someone has turned into a gentleman," she teased as she got into the car. Joseph laughed as he shut the door. "I have always been a gentleman," he said as he slid behind the wheel. "No, you have not." Joseph smiled as he drove out of the parking lot. Suddenly seeing Aaliyah again after all these years was incredible. It was as if all those years without her never happened. He wanted to relish this moment, as he did not know how long it was going to last. Aaliyah watched him drive. His strong hands gripped the steering wheel and made her wish they were on her instead. How had he grown into this man? In school, he did not have a car, so he took her around on his bicycle. When she offered to use her car, he declined. She loved riding on his bicycle. She got to sit behind him and wrap her arms around his waist. She always thought it was so romantic. They stopped at a quaint little cafe and ordered coffee and some pastries. "So what happened yesterday?" he asked her. "Exactly what we told you. Some man was harassing me and became overly offensive," Aaliyah replied. "Who struck first?" he asked her. Aaliyah hesitated. "Relax. We are off the record and you have not been charged with anything," he reassured her. "Sarah." "Tariq's wife?" "Yes." "That doesn't seem right." Joseph remembered Tariq as being very strict and rigid. Whenever they saw him, they pretended not to know each other, or if they were lucky, they would hide from him. He assumed that his wife would be very inflexible, elegant, and would never hit someone, never mind being seen in a bar. Aaliyah smiled and sipped her coffee. "She is not how you would expect his wife to be. She is very funny and kind. She is the best thing that has ever happened to him," she said. Joseph raised his eyebrows. "Really?" "Yes, because of her, he has become softer." Joseph laughed. "Really? How long have they been married?" "Almost 5 years. They have 3 children." "Wow." "What about you?" "I have no kids. Never been married." "Aren't you of age now?" "Woman, don't rush me," he said to her. He bit into his pastries and stared at her as he chewed. She was so beautiful. He could not take his eyes off her. "What?" she asked. She was feeling uncomfortable under his watchful gaze. "You have finally grown into your head." "What is that supposed to mean?" she asked as she put her cup down. "You had a big head," he teased. Aaliyah's jaw dropped open. He laughed while she tried to deny it. She had not changed much. She still reacted the same way when he teased her. "You're not funny," she said to him when she realized that he was teasing. Some things never change, she thought to herself. Perhaps it was a good thing. Then maybe they could go back to the way things were. Chapter 6. Joseph and Aaliyah exchanged accounts of their lives as they shared stories about what they had been doing over the past 6 years. Aaliyah could not help but admire how much Joseph had accomplished since graduating from high school. In some ways, he was still the same, though. He still made her laugh and get that warm butterfly feeling inside. As he drove her back to her hotel, Joseph told her how much he had missed her. Despite their time apart, they still held a deep connection. When they arrived, they exchanged numbers and promised to meet up again. Joseph was going to be off in 2 days, and they decided to get together. As Aaliyah kissed his cheek before walking away, she wanted to pinch herself. She hoped that she didn't come across as some love-struck teen, but that is exactly how she felt. When she got back to her room, she collapsed on the bed with her hand on her heart. She was filled with so many emotions, it was overwhelming. She was so happy to see him, but she was afraid of what the future had in store for them, as she knew that her aunt and uncle would not approve of their relationship, even though she was of age. And she still ached for him. It was all too much. She wasn't sure how she was going to wait 2 days until she could see him again, at least without breaking the law. A knock on the door made her jump. She opened the door to find all the girls standing there, smiling mischievously, especially Sarah. "What?" Aaliyah asked. "How did it go?" Soraya asked. Aaliyah shrugged her shoulders and let them into her room where they made themselves comfortable. "Where is Amir?" Aaliyah asked. "He had to get back to the office," Soraya replied. She was already missing him. Although it was under unfortunate circumstances, she was glad that she had gotten to see him. "How long will you keep us in suspense?" Sarah asked. "He had to work, so we did not get to spend much time together," Aaliyah said. Kalina and Sarah both frowned at her. "Stop holding out on us." "I was just about to say the same thing," Kalina said to Sarah. Aaliyah laughed. She walked over to the bed and sat between Sarah and Soraya. "Well, before I could even tell him who I was, he already knew." Aaliyah was so lively as she spoke. Her face lit up and she had a huge smile. "We went for coffee. It was so nice to see him. It was just like old times," she added. "Look at this glow she has," Sarah pointed out. Kira took Aaliyah's hands in hers. "Isn't it amazing when an old romance can be rekindled?" "My sister reads too many romance novels," Kalina said sarcastically. Sarah laughed and agreed, but Kira dismissed them with a wave of her hand. "We have to go to the spa," she said as she jumped to her feet. "What for?" Aaliyah asked. "You need a full-body makeover. The next time you see him, you need to look perfect." "I agree," Kalina chimed in. "I am sure he loves you for you, not for your makeup and stuff," Sarah pointed out. She disliked makeovers. It was too difficult to sit still for that long. "You need one as well," Kira pointed out. Sarah raised her eyebrows. "When you return home, your husband will be pleasantly surprised," she added. "My husband does not care for all that," Sarah protested. "But I will buy some new lingerie. I am not opposed to that," she added and laughed mischievously. Soraya laughed with her. "He is a man. Of course he cares." "We have 3 children without me having a makeover. How do you think that happened?" Sarah wiggled her eyebrows as Soraya laughed. "That will be you too, Missy. I know you and Amir go at it all the time," Sarah said to Soraya. And I'm leaving the room now, Soraya said and rose to her feet. Aaliyah laughed and grabbed her arm. Come with us to the spa. I will go if we all go. It will be fun, Aaliyah said. A woman needs to look after herself and keep things interesting for her husband. I agree. Let's all go. No one is allowed to stay behind, Kira said as she helped Sarah to her feet. I keep things neat and tidy, Sarah said. Neat and tidy? What are you talking about? Soraya asked. Down there. Oh, gosh, Soraya regretted asking as everyone started laughing. Leave it to Sarah to bring up something like that. When they arrived at the spa, Kira went through the menu of items available and chose one of everything for all the girls. Laughing, they headed into the changing rooms for a day of pampering. Finally, 2 days had passed, and Aaliyah couldn't wait to see Joseph. Unfortunately, the girls were returning home. Sarah had managed to prolong her work trip for as long as possible, but everyone had to get back to work and their spouses. The girls came to bid Aaliyah farewell before they left. Good luck, Soraya said before hugging her. Thank you, Aaliyah replied. Stop worrying so much and just go with the flow, Sarah said to her. She could see how worried she was. Aaliyah smiled and nodded as Sarah hugged her. Don't you feel amazing? The spa was worth it, Kira said as Kalina rolled her eyes. Sarah was eager to return home to her family. Tariq was having a hard time with the children, and he had refused to call the nanny. Now that Layla was 4 and the twins almost 3, they had a penchant for getting into trouble, and Tariq could not catch them when they split off in different directions, laughing as Daddy gave chase. Aaliyah looked at herself in the mirror. She had chosen a printed pencil dress and high heels. Her hair was extra silky because of the treatment she had gotten at the spa, and her honey-colored skin was glowing. She headed downstairs to the lobby to await Joseph. They were going to spend the day at his house. He was already waiting for her when she exited the elevator. He was wearing a pair of jeans and a white shirt unbuttoned at the top, which showed off his amazing torso. Aaliyah could feel his gaze before she spotted him. She immediately felt shy, but tried not to show it. You look beautiful, he said to her as she approached him. Thank you, she replied and kissed him on both cheeks. Your hair is different, he pointed out as they headed to the car. Huh? Aaliyah laughed. She was surprised that he noticed straight away. Did you do all this for me? He teased. I did not, Aaliyah lied. We decided to have a day spa, that's all. There was no way that she was going to tell him that it was all for him. It's okay. No need to deny the fact that you wanted to impress me. Stop, Aaliyah giggled, but could feel her cheeks turning red. Of course he would find something to tease her about. He opened the door for her. Look at you getting all shy. He was glad that he could still affect her this much. After all these years, he thought her interest in him would have died. Aaliyah slid into the car and ignored him. Where do you live? She asked him as he started driving. She needed to shift the attention from herself. Safad Village, he replied. That was only a 40-minute drive from the city. Aaliyah thought to herself, he did not live that far away. She could easily drive out to meet him. But then, why work out here? She asked him. Why not the city? So that I could be nearer to you? That is not what I meant. It would not be a bad idea, though. Laughing, he shrugged his shoulders. It takes 20 minutes to drive to work, and there is never traffic out here. The drive only took 10 minutes from the hotel to his house. As they drove through the gates, Aaliyah admired the house. While it was of modest size, the architecture was impressive, as it blended well with the landscape. As they walked inside, Aaliyah was secretly excited at the fact that he was going to cook for her. No man had ever cooked for her on a date before. Chapter 7. Aaliyah fell in love with Joseph's house as soon as she walked in. The floors were wide planked wood and polished to a shiny finish. The living room and kitchen was one common area divided by a tall kitchen island with pub chairs along one side. The living room was dominated by 2 black leather sofas, a large wood coffee table, and flat-screen television. "Your place is very nice," Aaliyah said. "Thank you," Joseph replied. "Please make yourself comfortable," he said to her as he walked into the kitchen and put on an apron. Aaliyah started laughing. "This is something I never expected to see," she said to him as she settled on one of the pub chairs. He smiled at her as he began pulling food out and placing it on the counter. He took out the pans and put them on the stove. Aaliyah sat there watching him chop the food and add the spices. She had spent very little time in the kitchen and was fascinated at how easily he seemed to know exactly what to do. "I am an impeccable cook, you know," he said. "Already bragging. Tut tut. I will be the judge of that," Aaliyah said as she stood up to explore the rest of the house. The bathroom was clean and neat. Aaliyah wondered if he cleaned it up because she was coming over, or if he was always this neat. She headed down the hall and opened the door to a room at the end of the corridor. It was the master bedroom. The house had 2 bedrooms. She walked in and started looking around as she wondered what kind of man he had become. Fida always said that you can tell a lot about a man from the look of his bedroom. The bed covers were silver, and the pillowcases were a contrasting black. The curtains were silver with black embroidery. Everything was matching and very tidy. She went to look at the top of his dresser. There wasn't much. She picked up his cologne and smelled it. She liked the scent as she rubbed a bit on her wrist. Aaliyah took her shoes off. Good thing she had gotten a pedicure. She returned to the kitchen after carefully looking around his room. Joseph was almost done cooking. "Finished inspecting the house?" he asked. Aaliyah frowned. How did he know? "I wasn't inspecting," she replied as she sat back down at the counter. Joseph took out 2 plates and placed them on the counter. He looked at her suspiciously. "What?" she asked, feeling uncomfortable. "Nothing." He smiled and walked back to the stove. Aaliyah didn't realize how hungry she was until she smelled the food as he placed the plate in front of her. "I can see you're trying not to drool," he teased. "It all looks amazing. I can't believe you made all this," she told him as she looked down at her plate. There was dolma, naan, diced chicken breast with mixed peppers and hummus. Everything looked so appetizing. Joseph poured her a drink before sitting down beside her. "You can eat," he said to her. Aaliyah picked up her fork. "Why is your place so clean? It is unusual for a bachelor," she said. Her eyes widened when she tasted the food. It tasted better than she expected. "Should it be untidy?" he asked her. "Or did you clean it because I was coming to visit?" "My house is always like this." Technically, that was true, but he did fix it up a little. He wanted everything to be perfect when Aaliyah arrived. After lunch, Joseph collected the plates and put them in the sink. "Since you cooked, I can do the dishes," Aaliyah said. "By all means, do so." "What a gentleman," Aaliyah smiled as she headed to the sink. Joseph laughed. He leaned against the counter and watched her do the dishes before picking up a dish towel to help with the drying. "I am surprised you can do dishes," he said to her. "What? Why would you be?" "Before today, have you ever washed any dishes?" Aaliyah paused for a moment. They always had maids, so there was never a reason for her to do the dishes. "I have," she said, "a few times." She could remember every moment she ever cleaned. You missed a spot. Aaliyah looked at the plate. It was clean. Joseph chuckled as she splashed him with water. You are not funny, she said, and yet you smile. Aaliyah ignored him and carried on doing the dishes while Joseph dried them and put them away. After they were finished, they moved to the living room. It was strange to sit together watching movies together like they had done back in high school. It was so comfortable, as if no time had passed. Joseph took Aaliyah's hand into his and stroked it gently. I missed you, he said softly. Aaliyah turned to look at him. For once, he was not teasing her. He had a very serious expression on his face as he stared at her. Looking at him like that made her both emotional and shy. Did you? She asked him. He nodded and caressed her face. It's my fault, she added. What do you mean? I ended it. I was not brave enough to try to make things work. A tear rolled down her face. Joseph wiped her tear away with his thumb and shook his head. I let you go, and I should not have. Do not blame yourself. Aaliyah looked down. She tried to fight back the tears, but she could not. Joseph held her face in his hands. It broke his heart to see her like this. He leaned forward and kissed her. Aaliyah was surprised at the sudden touch of his lips. She placed her hands on his chest and kissed him back. Aaliyah moved closer to him and wrapped her arms around his neck. He held her tightly as he kissed her gently. He took his time exploring her mouth as their tongues danced together. You kiss better now, he teased when he broke off the kiss. What? I always kissed well, she protested. Joseph smiled. Aaliyah frowned when she realized that he was teasing her again. She pushed him away playfully. Whatever, she said and turned away from him. He pulled her back and let her rest her back against his chest. He held her tightly, vowing that this time he was never going to let her go. Later that day, after they had dinner together, Joseph drove her back to her hotel. Aaliyah was going to be in town one more day. Fortunately, Joseph was off work early the next day, and he promised to spend the rest of the day with her. Aaliyah played it casual, even though she was excited. Tariq was sitting in the dining room reading the paper and enjoying a glass of wine. Sarah was helping the nanny put the children to bed, and it felt good to have the house quiet again. Having 3 toddlers was exhausting. He could not understand where Sarah got all her energy from, as well as continuing to work. Sarah walked into the room. They are all asleep, she announced as she sat down beside him. Finally, he said as Sarah laughed. But why isn't Aaliyah back yet? She is taking some time for herself. What? What does that mean? Sarah could never lie to Tariq. Promise not to get mad, she said to him as she sat up straighter. Why would I? He asked. Because you are you. What is that supposed to mean? Sarah grinned. Just don't get mad, okay? Fine. Sarah took a deep breath. Okay, she met a guy. Turns out that he was an old flame and she wishes to rekindle their relationship, so she stayed there to do so, Sarah said quickly. Tariq raised his eyebrows. You realize that speaking that fast won't make a difference. I still heard everything you said, Tariq told her. She spoke like that whenever it was something that she did not want to talk about, and this was definitely one of those times. Chapter 8. Sarah looked at him doe-eyed, waiting for his response. He was so overprotective when it came to Aaliyah. Tariq's facial expression changed. "Who is this man and what does he do?" he demanded. "I said, don't get mad," Sarah said. Tariq took a deep breath. It was hard to stay calm. "Who is this gentleman? Please tell me, my dear wife," he added sarcastically as Sarah narrowed her gaze at him. "Husband," she said, returning the sarcasm. "He is a fine police officer." Before she even finished speaking, Tariq cut in. "Police officer?" he shouted. "Don't wake the children. You mean to say that Aaliyah is infatuated with a police officer?" This time Tariq lowered his voice. "This is not an infatuation. It must be." "But it isn't. They were high school sweethearts." Tariq frowned. "That is unacceptable," he spat out as he made his displeasure evident. Sarah looked at him whilst he was speaking. She knew he was not going to be happy about it. "Don't act like you weren't with someone at that age." "It was different." "How so?" Tariq grunted and looked away. He knew he was not going to win this argument. It was better to stop now. He couldn't tell her that it was different because he was a man. She would bite his head off for it. Frankly, if it was another girl, he would not care, but this was his baby cousin. "I wish she would be with a respectable man from—" Before he finished, Sarah stopped him. "Stop there, my love. Being a police officer requires one to be disciplined, brave, and upstanding. A police officer assures the safety and security of everyone. Do not write him off because he's not a sheikh. Meet him first and then make your decision," Sarah said. Tariq looked at his wife and nodded in assent. She was a good influence on him. Had this been 5 years ago, he would have dismissed the subject and the police officer right from the start without giving it a second thought. "Have you met him?" he asked her as she nodded. "What did you think of him?" "He seemed very nice. He was polite and kind." Tariq nodded. "Fine, I will meet him," he said. "That is all I ask," Sarah replied as she smiled. She leaned forward to kiss him. However, she knew that this was only the first step. It was not going to be so easy telling his parents. Amir and Fida would not be so bad, but Tariq's mother was impossible. Catching her hand, Tariq brought it to his lips. "And just where do you think you are going?" he asked her as he kissed the palm of her hand. Holding her breath, Sarah let it out slowly as she closed her eyes. "I thought that I would go check on the children." "They are with the nanny." "Come to me, wife. I have not seen you in days," he told her as he pulled Sarah toward him. Smiling mischievously at him, she grabbed the newspaper from his lap and straddled his legs. Squirming to get comfortable, she settled on his lap as she wrapped her arms around his neck, kissing his face. "Did I tell you that I bought some new lingerie?" she asked him as she kissed his cheeks. "Oh, is it something I would like?" "Husband, as you well know, if it is on me, you will like it," she teased as she lightly kissed his lips. Grumbling, "I cannot be sure of that. I think that I will have to see for myself." "Well, perhaps you can start by touching it," she replied cheekily as she nibbled on his lower lip.
Sorry, readers, here's where we fade to black due to YouTube explicit content guidelines. If you dream for the steam, you'll need to take a look in the book.
Panting, he held her to him as their breathing began to slow. When she was able, she released her legs as he set her on her feet. Kissing her deeply, he smiled down at her before reaching for his pants. "I really like your new lingerie, and I think that you should wear it more often," he told her as she laughed. Joseph had been counting down the hours until he would see Aaliyah again. Finally, the day was over, and he rushed out of the station as his fellow officers stared in wonder. He normally stayed later than he needed to and willingly put in overtime. It was strange to see him leave work so early. Aaliyah was already waiting for him in the lobby. When she saw his car pull up in front of the hotel, she smiled and dashed outside. She opened the door for herself and got into the car. "Are you that eager to see me?" Joseph asked as Aaliyah frowned at him. "What are you talking about?" she asked him. "You were waiting for me in the lobby, and you practically ran out as soon as I arrived." Aaliyah ignored him as she adjusted her seatbelt. "I'm not a tardy person, that is all," she said. Joseph burst out laughing as he drove off. "Leah, you were never punctual for anything, especially if it was something that didn't interest you." Aaliyah did not hear anything past Leah. It warmed her insides to hear him call her that once again. Joseph was the only person ever to give her a nickname, and he first used it when he told her that he loved her. Whenever he was in a good mood or he was trying to cheer her up, he called her that. It had become such a term of endearment for her that when one of her boyfriends had called her that, she was quick to correct him. "What are you daydreaming about?" Joseph asked Aaliyah. "Huh? Nothing." She cleared her throat and looked outside as she smiled to herself. Finally, they reached their destination. As usual, Joseph got out of the car and opened the door for her. She smiled and thanked him as she exited the car. "Where are we?" she asked. "The semifinals for a soccer tournament," he said. The local children loved playing soccer, and everyone came out to cheer them on. The tournament was an annual event, and the small town turned it into a big celebration as they cheered on the local teams. "Who are we supporting?" Aaliyah asked as they walked to the pitch. "The Eagles, the ones in blue." "Okay." "Officer Samara!" someone shouted. Aaliyah and Joseph turned towards the voice. 3 teenage boys ran towards them. Joseph smiled as they approached. "Hey, guys." Joseph greeted them and threw light punches. The boys dodged the punches and jabbed back as they all laughed. Aaliyah just stood there watching. "What will you give us if we win?" one of them asked. "When we win, you mean," another said. Joseph laughed. "Win first, then we'll talk," Joseph replied. "Who is the beauty?" the last one asked, referring to Aaliyah. Joseph introduced her to them. She smiled and greeted them. "Good luck, guys," Aaliyah said to them as they ran back toward the field. Joseph led Aaliyah to the bleachers as they found seats. Several of the spectators all nodded and greeted Joseph. It seemed that everyone knew him well. "You are very popular," she teased. "Jealous?" "No, not at all." Hugging her. "Our station sponsors some of the teams, and I have helped out coaching." Aaliyah was impressed with how much time he spent volunteering in his community. It wasn't only work for him. He seemed to enjoy spending time with people. When the game started, there was a man with a basket of snacks. "Do you want something?" he asked her. She nodded. He whistled at the man, who gave him a nod. He threw a bag to Joseph. Aaliyah had never been to a soccer game before. It was so fascinating. Joseph opened the bag before handing it to her. The man then threw bottled drinks. Aaliyah laughed. No one ever behaved this way in her home. As the game picked up, the audience was shouting and cheering. "Come on!" Aaliyah shouted. Joseph looked at her in surprise. He laughed and started shouting with her as she laughed. "The match was so exhilarating," Aaliyah said to Joseph after the game. "I could see that you enjoyed yourself," he replied. "I did, and we won," she said as she smiled. "You must be a lucky charm," Joseph winked. Some of the older women greeted them as they approached. Everyone was fond of Joseph, and they were pleased to see him with a woman at last. Aaliyah suddenly felt very shy and smiled as she looked at the ground. They stayed for the post-match barbecue. There was live music and much laughter as they celebrated all the teams. The atmosphere was so happy and everyone was having a good time. Little kids kept coming up to play with Joseph or ask him questions. This was another thing that Aaliyah did not know about him. He was great with children. She was impressed by every part of him. Joseph drove Aaliyah back to the hotel after the barbecue. He had had such a good time with her, but now he knew she would be leaving soon. He escorted her back to her room. "I am not going forever, you know," she said to him as they entered the lift. "What are you talking about?" he asked her. "You look sad." Joseph laughed. "Don't project your feelings onto me," he said. Aaliyah shook her head as they reached the door. "I guess this is good night," he said to her. She smiled at him. "I had fun today. Invite me to more games." Joseph smiled. Aaliyah was telling him that there was a future. He pulled her close to him. Aaliyah gasped as she landed against his chest. He leaned in and kissed her. She immediately wrapped her arms around his neck and stood on her toes to kiss him back. Chapter 9. Aaliyah fumbled for her room card as she tried to unlock her hotel room. Joseph chuckled as he took the card from her hand and slid it into the slot. Pushing the door open, they stumbled inside as the door shut behind them. Shoes and outer clothing quickly found their way to the floor as they carried on kissing. As he caressed her skin, Aaliyah was glad she had that spa treatment because her skin was still glowing and silky soft. Walking her backwards towards the bed, her legs bumped up against it as they both fell onto it.
Sorry readers, here's where we fade to black due to YouTube explicit content guidelines. If you dream for the steam, you'll need to take a look in the book.
"The way you are fumbling around, it makes me think that you have very little experience." As Aaliyah blushed, he paused. "Leah?" Putting some distance between them, Aaliyah crossed her arms over her chest. "It's not as if I sleep around regularly," she replied defensively. Reaching for her, Joseph put his hands on her shoulders as he rubbed them. "I did not think that you would," he told her. "But there's something that you aren't telling me. What is it?" Aaliyah looked down, suddenly too shy to respond. "Sweetheart, talk to me, please." Taking a deep breath, "I have only been with you." "Say that again?" Looking up at him, Aaliyah fought back tears that threatened to fall. "Oh, Joseph, it's only ever been you. After I left for school, I could not imagine being with anyone else, and, well, I haven't been." As she looked at him, a slow smile spread across his face. Whooping with joy, he scooped her up in his arms and swung her around before laying her down on the bed and landing on top of her. "You have no idea how happy that makes me to hear this," he told her as he rained kisses across her face. Aaliyah laughed as he tickled her. Her laughter slowed as she looked at the intent look on his face. Swallowing, she reached up to touch his face. Turning his head, he pressed a kiss into the palm of her hand. Running his fingers through her hair, he dipped his head to kiss the tip of her nose. Smiling, she tilted her head up as he captured her lips in a gentle caress.
Sorry readers, here's where we fade to black due to YouTube explicit content guidelines. If you dream for the steam, you'll need to take a look in the book.
Rolling to his side, he held her against his chest as he rubbed her back. He didn't know what it would take, but he had no intention of ever letting her go. Aaliyah woke the next morning to the gentle touch of Joseph as he brushed her hair off her face. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "You were snoring, so I could not sleep," he replied. "I do not snore," she spat out as she sat up in bed. How would you know? You were sleeping, he told her as she grabbed the sheet and dashed to the bathroom. I've already seen you naked, he laughed as she slammed the door behind her. She reappeared moments later and climbed back into bed. He pulled her closer to him and kissed her. I have to go to work, he said as he caressed her. Already? She asked. She did not want him to leave. He nodded and kissed her again. He broke the kiss and got out of bed. What about your uniform? She asked him as he got dressed. I have a spare at work. When he finished dressing, he walked back to the bed to kiss Aaliyah. Travel safely, he said to her. She nodded and rubbed his chest. I'll text you when I get back, she told him before he left. Layla ran to Aaliyah when she arrived back home. Sarah and Tariq had brought the children to see their grandparents. Aaliyah was happy to see her niece as she picked her up and kissed her. Sarah smiled and greeted her. She immediately wanted to ask about Joseph, but she had to restrain herself. She could not ask in front of her in-laws. Aaliyah greeted everyone and sat down on the sofa. Layla sat on her lap and played with her hair. How was it in the countryside? It did not sit right with me that you were left alone, Tariq's mother said. It was great. I think I like it more there than here, Aaliyah replied. It was not only because of Joseph. Well, it was mostly because of him. However, she liked the atmosphere. Everyone knew each other. They were friendly and didn't treat her like a Botros. Really? Tariq's father asked. Aaliyah smiled and nodded. Tariq raised his eyebrows. He did not believe that she liked the countryside. She was always a city girl. Must have been because of that man she stayed for. Aaliyah took a deep breath. She had to tell them, better to tell them now. I met someone, she blurted out. Sarah looked up with her eyes wide. She did not think that Aaliyah was going to tell them so soon. You did? Mrs. Botros smiled. She had been saying that it was time for Aaliyah to get married. She was already 24. Well, we are old friends, actually. Oh, dear, Tariq said quietly and shook his head. He knew this was not going to end well. I would like for you to meet him. He will be in town this weekend. Great. Invite him over for dinner on Saturday, Mr. Botros said. What does this young man do? Mrs. Botros asked. Her face dropped when she heard the answer. He is a police officer, Aaliyah replied. What? Mrs. Botros stammered, hoping that she had heard wrong. Yes, Aunt. Mrs. Botros touched her head. She felt as if she was going to faint. Her niece was with a police officer? This could not be happening. Well, so long as it's only an infatuation, I guess it's fine. So long as you do not marry, she said. It's not an infatuation. I love him. Love? What do you know about love? Mrs. Botros shouted. My dear, can he afford to look after you? Mr. Botros asked Aaliyah. Yes, of course. It's not as if he is poor, she replied defensively. He might as well be, Mrs. Botros spat out. It's also not just about that. There is your social status to consider. There is so much. She stopped speaking as she shook her head. It was all too much for her. Please calm down, Mother, Sarah said. Perhaps meet him first before you pass judgment. Mrs. Botros glared at her. Of course Sarah was supporting this. She too had come from a different background. Did you put her up to this? She demanded. Mother, do not attack my wife. This is all Aaliyah, Tariq replied. He could never stand his mother disrespecting his wife. His mother raised her eyebrows at him. I love him. I let him go once and I am not willing to do so again, Aaliyah said. And no, Sarah did not talk me into it. She is being supportive, something you should do, she added. Do you know what this would do to our family's reputation? Mrs. Botros demanded. She was furious. Which is more important to you, Aunt? My happiness or your reputation? Please calm down, Mr. Botros said. We only want what is best for you. If your father was still alive, he would agree. Shouldn't my happiness come first? Aaliyah looked at Tariq. I guess you agree with them, she asked. I'm not taking sides. I will not form any conclusions until I have met this man, Tariq replied. Aaliyah was pleasantly surprised. She thought that he would have completely ruled out the idea. She guessed that she had Sarah to thank for that. Aaliyah put Layla down and kissed her forehead as she rose to her feet. I will not change my mind on this, she said. I will not accept him, Mrs. Botros said. That will not change my mind. So you want to be a lowly police officer's wife. Aaliyah, you need to do better. Your parents would not be pleased. I wish to be Joseph's wife. What he does for a living does not matter to me. I will not be with someone simply because of their status and wealth. That is shallow. You should know me better than that. Aaliyah walked out of the room. She knew that they were not going to accept him, but she did not know that it was going to affect her so quickly. She was furious. She could not believe the things that were coming out of her aunt's mouth. It was despicable. Chapter 10. Aaliyah rushed downstairs when she heard Fida's voice. She ran to hug her as soon as she walked into the room. Fida smiled as she embraced her granddaughter. She knew exactly how she must be feeling. She had been out of town dealing with matters of her charity when she heard about Joseph. She made sure to return to the city a day early so that she could be there when he met the rest of the family. She, too, wanted to meet him and be there for Aaliyah. She knew what her daughter-in-law was like. How are you, my dear? Fida asked Aaliyah. I am not fine, Aaliyah replied. She always milked the attention she received from her grandmother. Tell me about this man. They sat down on the sofa together as Aaliyah told her everything about him. Fida was surprised that she had never heard anything about him before, but seeing how Aaliyah was speaking about him, she could tell how much she loved him. She looked so happy. Aunt Delia won't even consider him, Aaliyah complained. Mrs. Botros had made it clear that she did not want Aaliyah with him and would not consider it. I knew she would be like that, Fida replied and shook her head. It seems that she was never going to change. The level of shallowness and prejudice Aaliyah exhibited really bothered her. Joseph will be here in about an hour. I am so worried for him. He doesn't know how bad my family can be. Don't be, dear. This will be good. The way he reacts to Delia will show what kind of man he is. It will be like a test. Aaliyah frowned. I do not want him to go through that, she added. I know. Allie! Layla screamed as she ran into the room. She came to a halt when she saw Fida. Fifi, she said and smiled. She looked confused. She did not know who to hug first. Fida and Aaliyah laughed at her. Come here, sweetie, Fida said. She had not seen her in a while and had missed her dearly. Layla rushed over to Fida as Sarah and Tariq walked into the room leading the twins. Sarah greeted Fida and Aaliyah. She sat down next to Aaliyah as Tariq spread a blanket on the floor and then sat the boys down on it. Fida sat there, fascinated by him. How did you manage to make him do such things? She asked Sarah. Tell me about it, Tariq said. He approached Fida and kissed her on both cheeks. Layla jerked her head up and turned her cheek towards Tariq. He smiled and kissed her as well. Sarah laughed and shook her head. Layla loved the attention. Tariq also kissed Aaliyah and gave her shoulder a gentle squeeze before he sat down. Moments later, Soraya and Amir walked into the room. They greeted everyone. Soraya hugged Aaliyah and whispered, "Is Joseph still coming?" Aaliyah nodded. Time was drawing near and she was growing more and more nervous. Everyone had arrived and Mr. and Mrs. Botros were going to return soon. She was not looking forward to any of it, but she had no choice. Soraya and Sarah pulled her to the side to speak about Joseph. They hadn't really gotten the opportunity to talk about him. "So what happened when we left?" Sarah asked Aaliyah. Her eyes were wide with curiosity. Soraya was looking at Aaliyah the same way. She, too, was eager to find out. Aaliyah laughed and started telling them about the soccer game, how he was so respected and loved in his community. He was really good with children. The older women loved him and the teenage boys looked up to him. He may not have status, but he had respect. Aaliyah also told them about their date, the fact that she had gone to his house and he had cooked for her. "Officer Handsome sounds like an ideal man," Sarah said. "It would be nice if Tariq would cook for me," she added. Aaliyah and Soraya looked at her and started laughing. "All you heard was food," Aaliyah said to her. Sarah laughed and shrugged her shoulders. "I heard more than that." They all turned when they heard voices. Mr. and Mrs. Botros had arrived. The girls walked back towards them. Soraya and Sarah greeted their in-laws. The maid came in to tell them that dinner was ready. "Can't we wait for Joseph?" Aaliyah asked as the maid started serving the food. "He's still coming?" Mrs. Botros asked with displeasure. "Of course he is still coming." As an argument was about to break out, one of the maids walked in and announced Joseph's arrival. He walked in dressed in a pair of black trousers and a white shirt. Aaliyah rose to her feet instantly and went over to greet him. "This is Joseph," she said to everyone. She was not sure how to introduce him. It was not as if it would make a difference anyway. He bowed his head and greeted everyone. Sarah and Soraya were smiling at him. Everyone else was analyzing him. Aaliyah asked him to sit next to her as Mrs. Botros looked away. She could not believe that Aaliyah had still invited him over, that she was so determined. From her first impression, she did not like him. He came dressed in cheap clothes and empty-handed. "Nice to see you again," Sarah said to Joseph. "You have already met?" Fida asked. Sarah nodded. "Well then, I must introduce myself to you. Lady Fida," Joseph replied with a smile. "It is an honor to meet you. I have heard of your great work," he continued. Fida raised her eyebrows. He knew about her charity work and admired her. Not many wealthy people were so down to earth or invested as much time in charity work as she did. "Thank you, young man." The maid served Joseph his food, clearly unsure of what to make of the situation. Tariq was watching his every move. He was not going to let a single thing escape his eye. He wanted to know exactly what kind of a man his cousin was in love with. "So, you do know of us," Mrs. Botros said. Sarah and Soraya looked at each other and carried on eating. They knew trouble was about to start. "I do, ma'am," Joseph replied politely. "So is that why you targeted our little girl?" "No, that is not the case, ma'am." Joseph was not surprised that she was pegging him as an opportunist. He had come prepared to hear the worst, and he was ready to fight for Aaliyah no matter what. "How do you know her?" Mr. Botros asked calmly. "High school, sir," Joseph replied. Tariq noticed that he was polite and calm, but it did not matter at this point. It was when his mother started shouting profanities at him that it mattered the most. "How old are you?" Tariq asked. Sarah flared her nostrils and narrowed her gaze. She had been wondering when Tariq was going to start speaking. He had been quiet longer than she expected. 26, Joseph replied. And you're not married? No, Sheikh, I am not. Why not? I never found the right woman. And you have now? Stop, Aaliyah cut in. Let us enjoy our food, she added. I agree. Let him settle in first before the interrogation starts, Sarah said. The three of them were coming for him at the same time. It is all right, Joseph said. I love Aaliyah. I always have. And yes, she is the perfect woman for me, he continued. Aaliyah felt her cheeks turning red. It warmed her insides to hear him saying such words. Sarah and Soraya were smiling at him as Fida laughed. Young love is so beautiful. Even after all these years, you still love each other, Fida said. Mrs. Botros rolled her eyes. I call that determination of an opportunist, Mrs. Botros stated vehemently. Aaliyah's face dropped. Mother, please, Amir cut in. He had watched Aaliyah's face light up when Joseph said that he loved her. He couldn't believe how quickly his mother spoiled the moment. Sarah, Soraya, Tariq, and Amir had faced her wrath. Amir did not think Aaliyah could handle it, especially since she was not her daughter. It was going to be harder for her, and she was the most fragile. Aaliyah wanted him to meet us, so he must be prepared to hear our thoughts, Mrs. Botros said and put her fork down. Please, speak your mind, ma'am, Joseph said. He was still so calm. Is that supposed to be a challenge? She shouted. Dahlia, control yourself, Fida said sternly. Chapter 11. Mrs. Botros sighed heavily. She picked up her fork and reluctantly carried on eating. Fida was her mother-in-law and rarely got angry, but she was scary when she did. Dahlia did not want to anger her, but she was frustrated with the fact that she did not see Joseph as unfit to be with Aaliyah. She was determined to prove her point. She wanted Aaliyah to marry into a respectable family. Besides, she did not believe Joseph loved Aaliyah without any ulterior motives. I love and care for Aaliyah, so I want the best for her, Mrs. Botros said. We all do, but there are better ways to deal with things, Fida replied. Sarah took a sip of her drink. She was not going to get involved in that one. Fida was usually so calm. She did not want to poke the bear. He is a police officer. He would probably marry her and then expect a position in our company. Ma'am, I agree that you have a well-established company. However, I do not wish to join. I love what I do. My duty is to protect people, and that is all I have ever wanted to do, Joseph said. Aaliyah rubbed his arm. Everyone in his community loves and respects him, Aaliyah said. Amir raised his eyebrows. Aaliyah was quite vocal. He had expected her to have backed down by now. Bullshit, Mrs. Botros shouted, jumping to her feet. Everyone whipped their heads in her direction. No one had ever heard her swear. Dahlia, you do not need to swear, but I do agree with you. Sooner or later he will feel less of a man and will want to have more, Mr. Botros said. Uncle, Aaliyah screamed out. We will never approve, so you might as well end this fruitless endeavor, Mrs. Botros yelled. I will not give him up again, Aaliyah said. Us or him. Choose. Mother, please, do not speak like that. You cannot ask her to make such a choice, Soraya said. Sarah nodded as she swallowed. I agree. Before Sarah finished speaking, Mrs. Botros cut her off. No one cares what the two of you think, she said. Mother, do not attack my wife or my sister-in-law, Tariq warned. His tone was clearly telling his mother not to go there. He was very short-tempered and protective when it concerned his wife. "I pick Joseph," Aaliyah said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. Joseph held her hand and shook his head. "Give them time to come around. Do not make rash decisions," Joseph said to Aaliyah. "If you choose him, then we will cut you off for good," Mrs. Botros threatened. "Then cut me off." It took guts for Aaliyah to say that. She was scared, but she loved Joseph. She was willing to do whatever it took to be with him. She could not bear losing him again. "You think that I am bluffing?" "Darling, calm down. Do not be too hasty," Mr. Botros said. "Your parents would be disappointed if they were still alive." Mrs. Botros rose to her feet. Aaliyah felt the tears stinging her eyes. "No need to bring up her parents," Tariq said. Aaliyah rose to her feet as well. "Since I came into this house with nothing, I will leave with nothing," she said. "Since I am such a disappointment to you, I will leave now. Joseph, let's go." "Both of you sit down," Vida said. "Leah, please sit down," Joseph said gently. Aaliyah walked out of the room. She was not going to change her mind. Joseph stood up and bowed his head. "I am sorry things turned out this way," he said and left the room. Sarah was confused. Everything had happened so quickly. She stood and rushed out of the room. "Aaliyah!" Sarah shouted as she ran out of the house. She was just getting into Joseph's car as Sarah reached them. "I really do need to do more cardio," she said as she panted. "She won't listen to me," Joseph said. "I won't come back if they do not accept him," Aaliyah said. "I love him too much to give him up," she added. "I understand," Sarah said. "I will help you in any way I can." "You have done enough, thank you. Don't do any more. Aunt will only turn on you too, and I do not want that," she said and rubbed Sarah's hands. She turned to Joseph and told him to drive. He nodded, then bid Sarah farewell. Sarah returned to the house to hear Mrs. Botros and Vida arguing. Sarah sat back down quietly and drank some water. Amir asked her what Aaliyah had said. He was still shocked that she had stood up to his mother and walked out. Whenever she had gotten into trouble, she normally asked Amir for help. He figured that her feelings for Joseph must have been very deep for her to act like that. "Dalia, I will not let you do this to Aaliyah," Vida said. "She walked out of her own free will," Dalia replied. "You kicked her out when you demanded that she choose. Were you actually thinking that she would choose you? What exactly do you want from her? To marry a rich man and be unhappy?" "Why does she have to be unhappy?" "Simply because a man is wealthy does not mean happiness for the wife. Aaliyah will be with whomever she chooses to be with. How dare you even say her parents would be disappointed in her?" Vida was getting very angry. Mrs. Botros stood up and approached her. "They would want her to marry into a good family," Dalia replied gently. She was convinced that she was right. "Mother, calm down," Mr. Botros said to Vida. "Let go of me," she demanded as she shook her son off. "Simply because he is not from our social class does not mean that he is not from a good family. I am disappointed in both of you," Vida said. "I love her as if she were my own daughter, and I only want the best for her like I do for my own children," Dalia stated defensively. "Bring her back home, otherwise feel the full extent of my wrath," Vida threatened before she walked out. Mrs. Botros left the room and went upstairs as her husband followed. Sarah was feeling awkward. So much had happened in one night. "I guess we should go home," she said. "I think so too," Soraya said. Where did Aaliyah get that courage from? Amir asked and looked at Sarah. Why are you looking at me? Sarah asked. You look suspicious. Sarah laughed. I wish I had something to do with it, but I did not, she said. She felt so proud of her. It must have taken a lot of courage to speak out against Mrs. Botros. She knew what it was like to be in that position. Let's go get the children, Tariq said. He was full of mixed emotions. He felt bad for Aaliyah, was upset with his mother over her behavior, and very scared of his grandmother. He never ever wanted to disappoint her. He loved her too much. He was surprised at Aaliyah's courage, and still did not know what to make of Joseph other than he handled himself well, given the circumstances. Chapter 12. It had been 2 weeks since Aaliyah had left home. She was back in Safad village with Joseph. He had tried to change her mind about returning home, but she was adamant. She loved Joseph, and she couldn't imagine spending a moment without him. Despite what her family had said, her heart was set on Joseph. Sarah and Soraya called her every day to make sure that she was okay and did not need anything. According to them, her aunt was still very angry. Aaliyah was covered in food when Joseph arrived home from work. He leaned against the counter, watching her stare at the pot on the stove. Aaliyah, what exactly are you doing? He asked her with a smirk. She jumped when she heard his voice. I was trying to cook, she said and pouted. She looked like a little child that was in trouble. Joseph picked up a dish towel and approached her to wipe her face. How did you end up wearing the food instead? Don't tease me now. I was trying to cook for you. Joseph kissed her head. Well, thank you for trying, he said. He looked down at the pot. But we definitely cannot salvage that, he said and laughed. Joseph, stop laughing, Aaliyah complained. Go clean up. I will cook. Aaliyah sulked as she left the kitchen to change her clothes. She had never cooked in her life, but she wanted to cook for him. She liked the idea of him coming home to her after a long day. She wanted him to relax while she made dinner. Teach me, she said when she returned to the kitchen. Joseph turned to look at her with a raised eyebrow. What? He asked her. Teach me how to cook. He gestured for her to join him as he reached into a drawer to pull out an apron. Putting it over her head, he turned her around to tie it in the back. While this won't help with your head, perhaps we can keep your clothes clean this time, he teased. Pointing to the cutting board, he showed her how to cut the vegetables as he stood behind her. Leaning against him, Aaliyah smiled. If this was what cooking with him would be like, she could do this every night. Grabbing a carrot, he held it to her mouth as she took a bite. Kissing her neck, he slipped his arms around her waist as he pulled her tight against him. Rubbing her hips against him. If this is how you plan to teach me how to cook, I don't think I'm going to learn anything, she scolded. Oh, you will learn something, he responded as he continued to kiss her neck. It might not be cooking, but you will definitely learn something. Turning her around, he stepped between her legs as he drew her into his arms. Sliding one hand up to her neck and the other to her lower back, he kissed her as she rubbed up against him. She grumbled in frustration when he broke the kiss as they stood there panting. Turning her back around, he reached for the bowl as he placed the ingredients inside. Reaching for the spices, he helped her measure them out. Setting them aside, he slid his hands up her sides as he kissed her neck. She smelled of cinnamon and curcumin. Groaning, he nipped at her neck as she yelped in surprise. Hey, we're supposed to be making dinner, not turning me into dinner, she chastised. You are right, he told her as he cleared the counter. You are much more suitable for dessert, and I intend to have that now.
Sorry readers, here's where we fade to black due to YouTube explicit content guidelines. If you dream for the steam, you'll need to take a look in the book.
Smiling down at her, I have to say that I much prefer dessert first. Perhaps we need to do that more often. Laughing, she sat up and reached for her clothes before giving him a cheeky grin. Perhaps next time I will be the one to have dessert first. When they returned to the kitchen, Joseph picked up where they left off as he gathered the vegetables and pulled the chicken out. Heating the pan, he showed her how to season and cook. As they worked together, Aaliyah admitted that she loved cooking with him. As they sat down to eat, Aaliyah asked him about his day. She loved hearing every little thing that went on at his work. I have started looking for work, she told him. Joseph looked at her. I hate that you have to change your lifestyle because of me, he said to her. Aaliyah shook her head. Don't be, because I am not. I was bored with my life, and now I could not be happier, and it's all because of you. Aaliyah was in the living room watching television when she heard the doorbell. She looked through the peephole to see Soraya and Sarah standing anxiously. She smiled as she opened the door. What are you two doing here? She asked. We are here to see you, of course, Sarah said as they hugged her. How did you find me? She asked as they moved into the living room. We are both married to sheikhs, Sarah said. Oh, yeah, Aaliyah replied as she laughed. Of course they could find anyone if they wanted. Would you like something to eat? She asked them. No, Soraya said. Yes, Sarah replied. Aaliyah laughed. Of course. She went to the kitchen to heat up some leftovers. Joseph always made plenty so that Aaliyah did not starve during the day. Even though you are not hungry, you have to try Joseph's food, Aaliyah said to Soraya. Okay, Soraya replied. So how have you been? I have been great. Wow, this food tastes amazing, Sarah said. It really does, Soraya agreed. Yeah, he really is a great cook, Aaliyah replied as she smiled. Sarah stared at her for a moment. There was something different about her, but she could not put her finger on it. Are you using a different moisturizer? Sarah asked her. No, I am not. Why? Your skin looks different. Aaliyah shrugged her shoulders. She had not changed anything, and she had not noticed her skin looking different. So, are you ever going to return? Soraya asked her. I don't see the point, Aaliyah replied. It was sad that things had turned out this way, but what could she do? She was not willing to give Joseph up. Tariq thinks that Joseph is a decent man, Sarah said. Aaliyah raised her eyebrows. Really? If he did not, he would have come to drag you out of this place by now. Aaliyah laughed. It was very true. Tariq would have not allowed her to stay with him. When she had spoken to him, he refrained from giving his opinion in regards to Joseph. He simply asked Aaliyah about her well-being and if she needed anything. Tariq is too strict, but he means well, Aaliyah replied. He and Amir always looked after me. I think Joseph should spend some time with Amir and Tariq so that they can get to know each other, Soraya said. That is a good idea, Sarah agreed. She looked at Aaliyah. Are you all right? You seem unwell all of a sudden, she said to her. Sarah, I am fine. You are worrying over me too much, Aaliyah replied. Sarah could not figure it out, but there was definitely something going on with her. The three of them hung out for the rest of the day. When night came, Sarah and Soraya had to return to the city. They were glad to see that Aaliyah was doing well, as everyone had been so worried about her since she left. What did you do today? Amir asked Soraya during dinner. Sarah and I went to see Aaliyah, Soraya replied. Amir raised his eyebrows. You did? We did. How is she? She seems very happy. It was good to see her. Amir sighed with relief. At least she was happy, but he was not comfortable with her being so far away, even though it was less than an hour's drive. I still need to meet with this Joseph properly, Amir said. Yes, you and Tariq need to do so. Only then can you relax, Soraya replied. Amir frowned. Is he the same man from the police station? He was the one that actually arrested us. Soraya smiled, remembering it. It had been a very adventurous day. Amir shook his head. That is an interesting way to meet, he said. Soraya agreed with him. It was definitely fate, though, as they had met him twice in one day. Chapter 13. Tariq's assistant walked into his office and announced Joseph's arrival. He had invited him to join him and Amir for lunch at the office. Joseph was still dressed in his uniform. He bowed his head as he walked into the office. Tariq gestured for him to sit down at the table, which was already laid out with food. I am glad that you could join us, Tariq said sternly. Thank you for inviting me, Joseph replied. Tariq gestured for Joseph to start eating. There was silence as Tariq stared at him. He always analyzed an opposing party before speaking. So, you are sleeping with our cousin, Tariq said, getting straight to the point. Amir and Joseph both looked at him in surprise. Joseph did not know how on earth he was meant to answer that. I beg your pardon, Joseph replied. Amir sat back to watch the action unfold, prepared to chime in when needed. There was no way he was letting Joseph off that easily. She is living with you. You must be sleeping with her. I would never do anything against her will. Now that you have deflowered her, what will happen? Will you grow tired of her and throw her aside? No, sir, those are not my intentions. I would never do that to her. So what is the end result of this relationship? I wish to marry her. I actually came here to ask for your permission. Amir raised his eyebrows. He had not expected that at all. Tariq still wore the same expressionless look. He, too, had not seen that coming, but he wondered if he was simply trying to get himself out of an awkward situation. What? Amir spat out. Are you sincere? Tariq asked Joseph. I am very sincere. I have loved Aaliyah since we were teens. I allowed her to walk away from me once. I will not do it again, Joseph replied. Tariq intimidated him, but he was not going to let that stop him from being with the woman he loved. He had to talk to him man to man. In marriage, you need more than love. Tariq wanted to test him, to see if it was more than infatuation. He wanted to see what Joseph was really made of. I agree. Communication is important, and that is not an issue between Aaliyah and me. We have no secrets between us, and we are not afraid to speak our minds to one another. I am also able to provide for her, whether it is financially or emotionally. I respect her and value her. I will do whatever I can to keep her happy, Joseph said. Tariq was impressed by his answer. Not many men respected their partners or admitted that they did. What will you do about gaining approval from our family? Amir asked. Hopefully your family will approve of me one day. I will wait patiently, Joseph replied. If we do not allow you to marry Aaliyah, what will you do? Tariq asked. He took a sip from his glass. My priority is to keep Aaliyah happy and healthy. I can be patient, but if she wants to marry soon, then I will abide by her wishes. However, I do hope our relationship would have gained approval before that happens. I do not wish to burn any bridges," Joseph said. Tariq studied him for a moment. He may want approval, but he was not going to wait forever. He showed courage and just how much he loved Aaliyah. If he was an opportunist like his mother said, then he would have been willing to wait forever. He would have been groveling and desperate for approval. Joseph breathed a sigh of relief when he finally left the office. Convincing Tariq to trust Aaliyah with him and allow him to marry her had almost been impossible. Tariq had finally agreed, but threatened to end him if he mistreated or harmed his cousin in any way. Amir had the same thoughts as he nodded in approval. That night, Tariq went to visit his parents. He needed to talk to them on behalf of Aaliyah. Vida was normally the peacemaker in the family, but she had yet to speak with her daughter-in-law. She was so angry. Mr. and Mrs. Botros were sitting in the living room having tea after dinner when Tariq arrived. He greeted them as he sat down. "What brings you over at this hour?" his mother asked him. "The obvious, Aaliyah," Tariq replied. His mother put her cup down and looked away. "She has been gone for a month now. Will you now call her back home?" "She left on her own accord. She can come back on her own accord." "You and I both know it is not that simple. Son, we did not want things to end up this way," Mr. Botros said. "Then accept her relationship." "You, of all people, should understand," his mother spat out. "I do not know what it is you mean by that, but I find Joseph more than capable of looking after her." Mrs. Botros laughed sarcastically. "Do you even know the man?" she asked him. "I sat with him this afternoon," Tariq replied plainly. "What for?" "He wants to marry Aaliyah." "Of course he does. How else will he get into our company?" "Mother, enough. Don't you realize that Aaliyah is never going to come back? You might as well let go of this foolishness and accept them, or you will never see her again." "Foolishness?" "You never even tried to hear them out, or even meet with him." Tariq was also guilty of judging him at first, but he was willing to see it through. His mother went too far with her words. "Do you know why Vida is so angry with you?" "Obviously, because she cares for her grandchildren." "No. Her mother also came from such a background." "What is that supposed to mean?" "Vida's grandfather was a police officer." Mr. and Mrs. Botros dropped their jaws and looked at each other. "How do you know that?" Mr. Botros asked. Surely he would have known that his great-grandfather was a police officer. "Because I have spoken with Vida. You already know that she has never judged people based on their background. This time you struck a nerve," Tariq replied. Mrs. Botros could not believe it. She never meant to offend Vida. "This is crazy," Mr. Botros said. "We must apologize to Mother." "Yes, you must. Her grandfather built his riches from scratch. He saved every penny and then passed on what he had to Vida's mother. With that money, she started their coal company," Tariq said. They all knew about Vida's coal company, but no one knew exactly how it started. They only knew that it was Vida's mother who started it. "This makes no sense," Mrs. Botros said. She felt as though she was going to faint. Tariq got to his feet. "My dearly beloved parents, you need to apologize to Vida and approve of Aaliyah's relationship. Trust me when I say that she is in good hands. On that note, I bid you good night." Mr. Botros could trust in Tariq's words. If he thought that Joseph was a good man, then he probably was. He was a good judge of character. He felt ashamed of the way he acted in front of his mother. He had no idea that her grandfather was a police officer. He knew he had to apologize to her at once. "We should go see Mother tomorrow," he said to his wife as she nodded quietly. She was still in shock, as she felt ashamed of herself. Chapter 14. Aaliyah and Joseph were lying on the floor naked. He had decided that after the bar fight he was going to teach her how to defend herself, but it had quickly turned into something else when he pretended that she had gotten the best of him as she had pinned him to the floor. When she smugly commented on it, he turned the tables as she suddenly found herself pinned beneath him. They soon forgot the lesson as clothes flew off.
Sorry readers, here's where we fade to black due to YouTube explicit content guidelines. If you dream for the steam, you'll need to take a look in the book.
Joseph took Aaliyah's hand in his and kissed it. "I think you enjoyed that a bit too much," he teased. "No, it was average," Aaliyah replied blandly, trying to keep a straight face. He turned to her and raised an eyebrow. "It did not sound as if you were having an average experience. I am surprised that the neighbors have not called the police." "Well then, it's a good thing that you are the police," she said as she grinned. She had to admit that she enjoyed herself more than usual. She had been so aroused lately. She could not understand what was going on with her body. Yes, perhaps that is a good thing, especially if you are going to be as loud as you were. "If you want me to be as loud as you thought I was, then you'll have to try harder," she teased. "Try harder?" Joseph pulled Aaliyah closer to him as she tried to wiggle out of his embrace. "Let me go," she laughed as he started tickling her. Joseph was laughing too and suddenly blurted out, "I want to marry you." Aaliyah stopped laughing and turned to face him. "What did you say?" She wondered if she had heard correctly. She sat up and stared at him. He had just said it without thinking. He had hoped to propose to her during a more romantic moment. "You want to marry me?" she asked. "I do," he replied. "Are you asking?" Joseph laughed. "I would have wanted to do it at a more appropriate time, but yes, I am asking," he said. Aaliyah jumped on him. "Of course I will marry you," she shouted as she wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him. She had never been so happy in her life. Everything was falling into place and finally making sense. Joseph laughed and held her tighter. "Leah," Joseph said softly. "What?" She released him from her embrace to look at him. She held his face in her hands. "I love you so much," he said simply. Aaliyah smiled. "I love you too," she said and kissed him. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. They stopped kissing and looked up. "Are you expecting anyone?" Joseph asked her. "No," she shook her head. "Maybe if we do not answer, they will go away," she said. The knock sounded again. "Aaliyah!" Aaliyah recognized the voice. It was Sarah. "Coming!" Aaliyah shouted back. They quickly dressed before answering the door. Aaliyah's jaw dropped when she opened the door. It was not only Sarah, but her entire family. They had all come together. Aaliyah did not know what to make of it. "Come in," she said softly. Joseph was shocked to see them all. He was especially shocked to see Mrs. Botros. "So this is where Aaliyah has been staying," she said as she looked around. "Looks comfortable," she added. Aaliyah looked at her grandmother for possible clues as to what her aunt was talking about. Fida hugged Aaliyah and kissed her forehead. "My understanding is that the two of you are engaged?" Fida asked. "What? He only just proposed, like 5 minutes ago. How did you know?" Aaliyah replied in surprise. "He asked Amir and Tariq for permission to marry you," Fida replied as she approached Joseph and kissed him on both cheeks. "Did he?" Aaliyah was confused. She was not aware of that. "Welcome to the family, son," Fida said to him. "What is going on, Sarah?" Long story short, Tariq spoke to his parents. They apologized to Fida, and here we are, Sarah replied. Aaliyah was still confused. Just what had Tariq said that had made her uncle and aunt apologize to Fida and accept Joseph? Either way, it was good news for her. It meant that the family war was over. "Come here," Mrs. Botros called Aaliyah over. She took Joseph and Aaliyah's hands into hers. "I know that I am a difficult person. I will try to be easier from now on. Just please be happy," she said to them. "This is a family full of drama," Amir said as he hugged his cousin. "Tell me about it," Sarah agreed. There was always something going on. "Aaliyah, you will have to return with us," Mrs. Botros said. "Why?" Aaliyah asked. She looked as though she was about to cry. Her aunt rubbed her shoulders. "You will stay at home until your wedding day. This will be the last time you stay with me as my little girl before I give you away," she said as her eyes welled up. Tariq and Amir looked at each other. Their mother rarely got emotional. "Is she crying?" Amir asked Tariq. "I think so," he replied and raised an eyebrow. Fida slapped both of them on the backs of their heads. They cried out and looked at her. "Your mother always wanted a girl. When she got the chance to raise Aaliyah, she took her in and treated her like her own," Fida said. "So of course she is emotional," she added. "It is just weird to see," Amir said as he dodged his grandmother's hand. "Now that everyone is happy, can we eat?" Sarah asked. Soraya looked at her. "You seriously just ate like an hour ago," Soraya said to her. "Sarah is always hungry," Aaliyah pointed out. "I will make something," she said. Joseph held her arm and stopped her from going to the kitchen. If she cooked, it would be disastrous. "I will cook," Joseph said and kissed her hands. Aaliyah frowned at him as he walked into the kitchen. "Aaliyah, you cannot cook," Mrs. Botros said. "I am learning," she answered petulantly. Mrs. Botros laughed and hugged her. Soraya and Sarah went to help Joseph with the cooking. They also used it as an opportunity to speak to him and ask him a million questions. The others stayed in the living room. Fida was watching Aaliyah. There was something different about her. Her skin was glowing. It all made sense when Joseph served dinner. She excused herself quickly and ran to the bathroom. "Looks like I am going to be a great-grandmother again," she said. Everyone whipped their heads in her direction. "What are you talking about?" Tariq asked her. "Aaliyah is pregnant," she said. "I knew something was different about her," Sarah said as Fida looked at her. "But are you as well?" she asked her. "What? Me? I'm not." "What is happening?" Mrs. Botros asked. "Who is pregnant?" "Sarah and Aaliyah," Fida said. Tariq looked at Sarah and held her shoulders and asked if she was with child. "I am not pregnant," Sarah replied. She could not understand what Fida was talking about. "Well, you have been eating more than normal," Soraya pointed out. Aaliyah reappeared in the living room, rubbing her belly. Joseph rushed over to her. "Are you pregnant?" he asked her. "No, what?" Aaliyah was confused. Fida smiled. She was never wrong about such things. "Seems as if we need to make a trip to the doctor," Fida said. Aaliyah and Sarah both refused to go, but she insisted. They ended up not eating and going to the hospital instead. The whole family waited in the waiting room whilst Aaliyah and Sarah were examined. They returned to the waiting room to wait for the results. "Can we at least go eat whilst we wait?" Sarah asked. Tariq held her face in his hands. "You have been eating more than usual," he said to her. She frowned at him and smacked his hands away as everyone laughed at her. Moments later, The doctor reappeared with a smile on her face. She looked at Sarah. "Oh, boy," Sarah said. "Sarah, you have baby number 4 on the way. Congratulations," she said. She had delivered all of Sarah's babies. Everyone gasped and cheered. "And you, my dear, are carrying your first child. Congratulations," she said to Aaliyah. "What?" Joseph looked at Aaliyah as she sat there frozen. It hadn't even crossed her mind. He pulled her into an embrace and kissed her. "This is great news," Fida said. Everyone congratulated Sarah and Aaliyah. Everything had finally fallen into place. Aaliyah was so overjoyed. In the same night, Joseph had proposed to her. Her aunt had accepted him, and she had found out that she was with child. She could not be happier. Epilogue. It took a month to organize the wedding. Aaliyah was thankful for her aunt and grandmother who helped her pull everything together, as she wanted to marry before she began to show. The wedding was going to be held in Safad village. Aaliyah wanted it to be there, since that was where he lived and it was going to be her new hometown. Joseph's mother readily accepted Aaliyah. She had known about their love as teens, and she had hoped that her only child would one day find the happiness he once had. She was overjoyed to find out that it was the same person. Aaliyah had asked Sarah, Soraya, Kira, and Kalina to be her bridesmaids. It was an obvious choice. As they helped her dress on her wedding day, she couldn't help but notice Soraya. "It seems that I am not the only one who is excited," she said, looking at Soraya. She had noticed her extremely positive mood. "Of course I am excited for you," Soraya said as Aaliyah shook her head. "No, there is something else going on with you." "Nothing," Soraya said, but she was just so giggly and could not keep it to herself any longer. "I am with child," she blurted out. She had wanted to save it for after the wedding, but Aaliyah had keyed in on her mood. "What?" everyone exclaimed at the same time. They rushed over to hug her. "So all of you are pregnant?" Kalina asked as she laughed. "Is there something in the water?" "It does seem as if it were planned," Kira said as everyone laughed. They quickly finished getting ready and headed to the mosque. It was quite full when they arrived. Everyone loved Joseph, and they were so happy for him. Amir and Tariq smiled as Aaliyah walked down the aisle with her uncle. She looked so pretty. Malik also smiled. He had missed the drama since he was out of town, but he was glad it worked out well. Aaliyah was like a sister to him, and he wanted to see her happy. Joseph stared at Aaliyah as she walked toward him. She was so beautiful. He was so happy he stopped her car that day. He should have been off work already when the call came in from the bar. To think that if he had gone home, he would not have seen her again. "You look beautiful," he said to her as she stood by his side. "Thank you," she replied with a smile. They held hands as the officiant began the wedding ceremony. They were both so happy and eager to get married. This has been Sheikha's Determined Police Officer, the Botros Brothers series, Book 4, written by Leslie North, narrated by Tanya Stevens,